Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is April 25th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, with high hopes. As for me, how am I doing on this lovely Tuesday? I would say I am in a classic state of I'm doing good, but the vibes are a little bleh today, but I do come bearing a good food corner. Work treated today. We had two food trucks, and this is a classic thing. If you've listened to the podcast before, these people come before. It's like Big Dog Barbecue. They're like a little food truck, and then Mexicu. They're a food truck, and they're like Tex-Mex. Now, I got to do a little good news, bad news on this food corner. Normally, I like to tell you my wins, my little I'm going to call them scams. I call them scams just because it is me correcting the record. Because I feel like, hey, like I don't get paid much. I do my work, I do my fucking thing. And you're gonna limit me on the food, on the treats, on treat day? For me, that's a no-no. I am against it. I feel like you can afford this unlimited. And I understand, hey, systems, gotta, checks, balances, whatever. They're gonna do their thing. I get it. Law and fucking order. I understand. But some people let me down today. And I didn't get my extra ticket that I needed to get an extra meal. So sadly, I only have one meal to report. Usually I would have two on these kind of situations because I activate my gluttony engine and I just eat infinitely, and it's all in company dime, and that's how this should work. If you're not going to actually, do correct wages and do all that kind of shit and actually balance the shit out, then at least give me unlimited treats when it's treat day. That's my logic. You can call me a scoundrel, a little weasel. Fine. I don't care, but at least I'm full. That being said, we didn't win today. People didn't come through. It is what it is. We only had one meal. We made it count, though. It was a barbecue brisket sandwich with potato salad and macaroni and cheese. And all three parts were good. I also threw on some Cheeto cheese puffs, and I had a Monster because that's just what I normally bring to work because I'm a degenerate person. So that's the rundown on the food as we know it. Also, I'm stoked to say that this is a Tuesday and I'm podcasting. We did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. And we're gonna get to him later. He's part of the news, of course. Our wonderful, vigorous, and healthy president. Yeah, like I just said, fuck it. There's some big news to cover. I won't keep you guys too long. Part of the reason why I'm just kind of spamming and ranting about blah, blah, and yada, yada, yada. But, yes, I just was like, we can do this. Let's just do let's do the whole thing. Complete the circuit. One time for the one time. Obviously, no promises that we're going to keep this pace up. It all depends on the news. It all depends on me. Obviously, I'm the biggest X factor. But I like it. I like talking to you guys, and I could get used to talking to you guys every day. If that's what you want, that's what I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little pre break. Yeah, that's what we call it in the business. And then we're gonna get into the news. We're gonna cover some shit real quick. Ooh-wee. All right. So, my newsies already kind of know the first two articles I'm going to cover. I dropped it. I talked about it a little bit, almost like a primer. But that's part of the reason why I'm here. So, let's get started. From The Guardian, Tucker Carlson, firing highlights text unearthed during Fox Dominion trial. All right, I'm going to level with y'all. I don't want to talk through this article. I just wanted to reference something so that you know what we're talking about. Tucker Carlson got the fucking axe on Monday. My man, at the end of his fucking show on Friday, was business as usual. Hey, I'll see you all on Monday, signing off. And that was his last fucking show. And I'm not gonna lie, I was hyped. I was excited to hear the news on Monday. I was like, are you serious? That's the golden goose. Literally, this firing was big. I mean, every, like a lot of crazy deranged motherfuckers love Fox News. And part of the reason they love Fox News is their darling Tucker Carlson. Now, granted, Tucker Carlson's not a new phenomena. Like, the person who takes the 8 o'clock slot on Fox News is usually their banger, their ace in the hole. It used to be Bill O'Reilly. Then I think it was like Glenn Beck. That was around the time I started getting angry at these people, was when I started seeing Glenn Beck takes and shit. But Tucker Carlson is now out to pasture. He is, old news pretty much, which is crazy to think about, because literally this guy was just talking about last year about how we should be like tanning our balls to up our testosterone. And, this is a guy who literally could like rewash and integrate in this whole replacement theory bullshit. He was selling the kind of shit that people wanted to hear. He was so good at it, is so good at it. I'm sure he hasn't lost his fucking touch. I do not believe that he was fired because he's lost a step. I think, I don't know, the texts that were revealed, the emails were revealed in this Dominion trial were definitely very damning for Tucker Carlson in terms of like image, but he's definitely seemingly salvaged it. We've kind of talked about it, like in terms of like, he talked a lot of shit about Donald Trump, but then literally had an interview with Donald Trump like a couple fucking weeks ago. So it's one of those things where this man has a lot of power, a lot of sway, and he really has, since he's gotten in the position, taken the ball and run with it in a way that I haven't seen Bill O'Reilly do or Glenn Beck. Just really like just became this like just big figure, very controlling. Like he literally is saying things and governors are like reacting to it. They are literally doing his bidding. It's crazy. And it's like, well, why did he go? I really thought this guy was bulletproof. But something that has kind of like, just me listening to like the Daily, other just kind of like just sources and shit. There's a lot of talk about the high rate of misogyny that Tucker Carlson was just pushing in office. Just some of the really gross, cringe shit. Like they had like a weird picture of like Nancy Pelosi with like her big old bosom or whatever, like exposed. Not like, I don't think it was doctored to that point, but essentially they were just like making fun of the fact that it's like, oh, look at Nancy Pelosi's big old knockers. It's like, that's weird energy to have in an office with men and women. Like that's just strange, in office period. Then not to mention, I think there were statements between like him and a fellow co-host that I think might be suing them. And then also a guest host that also like witnessed and experienced some of this kind of shit and is also suing. So I've learned that that's something that's a big deal. Apparently with like Roger Ailes, one of the like original founders, he did a lot of like sexual fucked up shit and he got caught about it and they just fired him. So like that was a big deal. That's a founder. Also another thing that Rupert Murdoch and, the board or whatever, like they don't like upstarts. And definitely Tucker Carlson qualifies there. You can see it in the text. You can just see it in his general just demeanor. Like he knows he's got the juice. He's no longer the bow tie wearing sweaty piece of shit guy from Crossfire. Like he knows he's come up. He knows he's got the fucking juice. And I think it went to his head. He got too fucking comfortable. You could see it in these texts and emails. And I think they just now realized and said, you know what? He's not worth it. We can replace him by the end of the fucking week. And they axed him. And I do believe that they are correct in the sense that they can do that. Because all they need is just a new face. And they just say the shit. Go nuts. Say all the fucking vitriol that these people want to hear, and they're gonna tune in. That's essentially what the whole Dominion case was about, was they were losing the people because they weren't being based enough. They weren't being conservative based guy enough. They weren't backing Donald Trump to the hilt about election fraud. So they just said, okay, we'll do it. So they will make a replacement for Tucker Carlson. I'm curious to see where good old Tucker's going to land. My favorite little psyop. I don't know. This dude's so fucking weird. Anything I've learned about him, I've just hated and not liked. Worst fucking journalist ever. Shitty journalist, shitty fucking guy. Ugh. But I am curious. I'm fascinated. I want to see where he's going to wind up. Is he going to make a podcast? Like, I mean, because one, he's got to have his whole little exit shit. And then I'm sure there's clauses and things he's going to have to like abide by. Like, he's probably not going to go to another network. So that means it's a huge loss of the platform. Like I said, I randomly saw Glenn Beck with his little dumbass chalkboard. I want to say a few months ago. I can't quite remember. Some random video. And I was like, wow, how the mighty have fallen. But then I also remember, like I said, that these people are infinite. They're legion. Like, they all come up and just represent an idea, and they're there for a time, and they make their money, and then whatever happens, they rise, they fall, whatever, and then they're replaced by another schmuck who's going to push the same kind of goddamn narrative. But in a weird sense of karmic, weird balancing, Tucker Carlson wasn't the only anchor who got fired, who got the old axe. Don Lemon from CNN was fired. So we'll use an article for Axios for reference. Yeah, old. I mean, he's not old. He's old to me. he's past his prime. That's an ironic joke. We'll try to get to that. But Don Lemon has been fired from CNN. The former morning news show anchor said in a Twitter post on Monday. Now, he said he didn't see it coming, that they just fired him. CNN has come out and said, hey, we were like gonna have a meeting with him about this, and he didn't want to show up for it. So he's kind of lying there. He's kind of sus there. But essentially, it looks like on the surface, the big reason that he was fired was for the Nikki Haley past her prime comments. Essentially, on the air with like fellow co-hosts, they like two other ones, they were like having this kind of conversation. This is like after Nikki Haley's campaign announcement speech. And, you know, she said some stuff about how, like, you know, old Joe Biden, he's past his prime. She also lumped in Donald Trump in a sense, because I think he's like 76. They're both old ass motherfuckers. And, you know, she's saying, hey, I'm going to be a younger, fresher face. Like, I'm going to be here to really put in the work. That's my shtick. Like, that was just a campaign line that she's put out. But Don Lemon, who I believe is like 57, I'm not 100% sure on how old he is, but he said that Nikki Haley at 51 was past her prime. And he like defended that. He was like ready to die on this hill, talking to two other women, saying like, yeah, like that's just the way it is. You can Google it. What? Like, and I gotta say, for better or worse, there is something about Don Lemon's fucking sassiness that I fuck with. He's a sassy little guy. He shouldn't have fucking said that shit. That's fucking wrong. I know that I myself can have a thing where I'm like, oh yeah, if you're like close to 60, you're old to me. But like I said, I have my reasons for saying that and thinking that. That's like just because like my parents died at the age of like 60 and what, 57, 58. So it's just one of those things where it's just like, I just see that as an older age. That being said, like you can still do a ton of shit in your 50s, in your 60s. I do think it gets a little bit, your 70s, we're kind of getting there. We're kind of getting a little fuzzy to me. But that being said, like, you know, we do have a president who is literally fucking, 80 years old. We talked about Dianne Feinstein's fucking ass. She's 89, fucking rocking, shingles and all. So I would say that Don Lemon was out of pocket for saying this. But I think a lot of people are like, was this really enough for Don Lemon to get fired? He's been like in the company for 17 years. Like he's kind of like a staple of the institution. Like this is crazy. But it does also line up for a few reasons to me. And from what I've just listened and learned about, let's see, Discovery. Discovery's kind of come in and they did a merger with whoever is the company that owns CNN or whatever the fuck, I can't remember. But they did a merger, and essentially the head of this new merged company, he is like cutting heads, and he's like, we're trimming the fat. He's part of the reason why like the Batwoman movie never came out, because he's like, it's not worth it. We're not gonna like waste the money on this. Fuck it. No, bye. So it's just one of those things where Don Lemon to me isn't a surprise that like, oh, he's not like, we brought him back, like we rolled the dice here after this whole Nikki Haley spiel debacle, and he's not getting his numbers. His numbers aren't up, so let's let him go. So that makes sense to me. That's a check. Also, bringing it back to Tucker Carlson, once again, you have the situation where you were making a toxic work environment, and like already I've just talked about this whole situation with Don Lemon on the air with two other co-hosts, pretty much just saying, hey, like, you're old, you're done, you're washed up, and like y'all about to be washed up too. Like, he just was giving this off to like literally fellow co-hosts. That's not a good work environment, for starters. I've also heard more allegations and things like that about Don Lemon, where literally he like, I just want to say this in general, I feel like the vibe is he just isn't a big fan of women, and that's fucked up, obviously, right? Like, there's a situation I've heard where there was a fellow anchor. She was going to Iraq, and Don Lemon wanted to go to Iraq. That was just one of the things he wanted to do on his little anchor bucket list or whatever. And she got to go and he didn't. And someone sent this anchor while she was in Iraq these messages like saying, you need to watch your back, you need to be careful, da 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 da, like. And she was really shook and really worried about it. So she talks to, CNN saying, hey, like, I'm really concerned here. They do some investigations. They link it back to Don Lemon, and they don't do anything fucking about it. So that to me is really awkward. It shows a situation of like a very hostile work environment. And not to mention, I've heard other stories of him like yelling and being like rude to like producers and like fellow staff. So that's just the kind of thing that really rubs off. Also, something I want to bring up too with the Tucker Carlson, some kind of fusing these together any fucking way. Not just the misogyny. I also have heard things about like him being anti-Semitic and saying like anti-Semitic things. Not just him, but just this is the kind of work culture that he is breeding there. So we just have two situations here that I'm talking about and discussing, kind of juggling around kind of poorly, where these are people who are breeding bad work environments literally off of their own egos. They're feeling themselves so fucking much, they're just fucking up the vibes. And so it's like, it doesn't matter whether they're making money like Tucker Carlson or whether they are just staples of the fucking institution like Don Lemon. It's just not worth it. And you cut bait. So when this happened, I was definitely like, oh shit, crazy ass fucking Monday. What the fuck? But kind of looking around, thinking about it, mulling it over, I'm like, this isn't that crazy. Also, one more thing about the Tucker Carlson thing with Fox, they initially have announced it, and they really haven't said anything else like publicly other than this is a mutual split. And both are kind of saying that, which is kind of common for these situations to do. But I definitely did have to like, do a little looking around and seeing what the fuck is going on under the floorboards, because clearly this was not a amicable thing. Clearly this was not a thing that like Tucker Carlson saw fucking coming. But I gotta say, honestly, in both situations, I'm hyped. Like this, I was giddy as fuck about it, despite the fact that, like I said, not in the greatest of fucking moods. I literally am like so news pilled that like this excited me. Like, hey, I could be upset, but at least I have a job right now. You know what I mean? At least I'm working. Okay, I've dwelled on this for a little bit too long. I've made a short thing a long thing, and for that I am sorry. But I got one more person to talk about being fired before we do another thing. Let's see, from CNN. NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell fired after allegations of sexual harassment were corroborated, Comcast says. Let's see. Comcast said Monday it fired NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell after corroborating a female employee's allegations of sexual harassment. An attorney representing CNBC anchor and senior international correspondent Hadley Gamble acknowledged Comcast investigated Shell because of her client's complaint. So essentially, how this kind of all went down, I believe she was fired, and then she's like, "Well, this is really fucked up," and she then proceeds to like, I don't know if she fires us before or after the whole thing, but essentially this is happening. So her lawyer winds up making the statement, and let's see, let's run through the actual rundown of it. My bad. Once the company kind of finds out about this, they run an investigation. I don't believe they tell Shell about this, but they run it. They let him do business as usual, whatever. They come back, the third party, and they say, yeah, we can confirm this through emails and stuff that Gamble has given us. This all lines up. He's definitely has had a inappropriate relationship with this person. Actually, let's go ahead and read a quote from the lawyer. The investigation into Mr. Shell arose from a complaint from a client of sexual harassment and sex discrimination. And that's from Suzanne Mackey, who is managing partner of Furore Law, who is representing Gamble. So let's see. Then we can read a quote from Shell. I had an inappropriate relationship with a woman in the company, which I deeply regret. I'm sure he does. Shell said in a statement, I'm truly sorry I let my Comcast and NBC Universal colleagues down. They are the most talented people in the business, and the opportunity to work with them the last 19 years has been a privilege. I didn't know who this guy fucking was till Monday. I was like, who? Who the fuck is Jeff? Like, and I gotta say, obviously this dude is a fucking bad guy. Fucking worm. I hate when I animalize or do that kind of shit with people. I try not to do that. He's a bad dude. No good. No bueno. But I gotta say, I like a fucking CEO who's just fucking quiet. You know what I mean? Who doesn't pipe up, who doesn't post up on fucking Twitter every fucking day and be weird. That kind of energy is fucking just bizarre. It's weird. Just do your job. That's all I'm saying. Like, be a CEO, don't be cringe, and don't be a bad person. don't sexually harass people. But let's see. Shell carried out his normal duties while the company engaged an outside law firm to conduct an investigation, a person familiar with the matter said. So yeah, no good, no bueno, but good that he's probably out of the business. I am curious to see if there's going to be any more recorded fallout from these allegations, and yeah. Let's see. We got one more thing. One more thing I want to cover. I wanted to keep it short, and like I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about it. Let's close out with a nice little break. Oh yeah. Really kicking back. I'm sorry. Oh. All right. Let's finish the job. All right. From Associated Press, Biden announces 2024 re-election bid. Let's finish this job. I wish he did say it like Master Chief, but he just probably said it like an old ass fucking dude. You can watch the video if you like. I personally didn't. These things just aren't cool, man. People don't hit anymore with the campaign announcements. No one, like, zero riz, no energy. Like, it's a lot of smiling faces, but I don't know. It feels very cookie cutter every time. Like, from Joe Biden to Donald Trump's. But President Joe Biden on Tuesday formally announced that he is running for re-election in 2024, asking voters to give him more time to finish his job and extend the run of America's oldest president for another 4 years. Our old our old Joe, he'll be 86 by the end of his second term if he gets reelected. So that'd be interesting, I guess. Sadly, it really does look like it's gonna be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. I did want to kind of talk about a couple other candidates. You can read this if you like. It's a very long thing. Like I said, you can watch the video if you like. I don't know. It's kind of boring. Like I said, I read it and I was like going to sleep. I did want to talk about, though, some candidates I haven't really mentioned. Not all of them. I really don't care. But Marianne Williamson is a Democratic candidate who is also running. I would say if I really thought, like, of the people available, and I didn't want to pick Joe Biden because I'm really not the biggest fucking fan, this would probably be the person I picked. But if you know me, I just like to pick a winner. I do. I fucking do. That is definitely the fucking blue hog liberal in me. That I just like, look, dude, that's how I wound up voting for fucking Hillary Clinton. Oh, I know. And that's how I wound up fucking for voting for oh, good old Joe. Like, because it just comes down to it's this or that. I would love to break the fucking system and we have like multiple parties and shit like that. And these people actually have to work for a vote instead of just sitting here saying like, I'm literally like the best you're going to get. It's fucking lame as hell. Also, I think it is crazy that Marianne Williamson is the like only pick, like to me. But really that we're going to have to fall back on old Joe. Let's see. Also, there's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I literally haven't mentioned him because I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is crazy. I also don't think that he's a Democrat, really. I think he's just running under that because he knows he couldn't win against Donald Trump. At least that's at least the smartest thing you could do in this kind of situation. But this dude's like anti-vax. Let's see. He's 69 years old. So that's great. Nice. But he is a Kennedy, a nephew of President John F. Kennedy. But yeah, like I said, boo. Marianne Williamson, I'm okay with. Let's see, there's Asa Hutchinson. I think we talked about him. Vivek Ramaswamy, once again, to kind of merge some things. I believe before Don Lemon got fired, he actually had an interview with this guy. And Vivek, he had just went to the NRA convention, and he was talking a lot of that fucking shit. He was fucking crank, and he was saying so much crazy shit. One of the things he had said was something to the effect of like, black people should be like thankful for the NRA because the NRA like trained them on how to use guns, and guns help them secure their freedom and their rights and all this fucking shit. And I gotta say, like, as much as obviously like Don Lemon is a little sassy daddy piece of shit, he did, in my opinion, at least hold firm here and was like, that's wrong. Like, literally, if it wasn't for civil rights, like, in that movement of people and that kind of sacrifice and action, nothing would have changed. And this Vivek guy was, like, really holding his fucking stance and, like, trying to say, no, you got it wrong, da-da-da-da. And I at least give Don Lemon some fucking credit for saying, no, this is stupid. I really want to be done with this conversation. Because I myself was like, I want to be done with this fucking conversation myself. So yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, not a big fan. Good luck to him. I will say, nice to see an Indian American, you know, making his move, making his way downtown, if you will. I do hate to see it though. I mean, this is me honestly going on a tangent here, but when I see a person of color, and I get it, when you are fed up with how liberals and the Democrats can just literally just have all the keys to the castle at some points and just fumble the bag, you have to go and understand that this is a fucking fraud, right? Like, you guys are literally scamming us, right? Like, come on, like, what do you mean you couldn't make these changes? You couldn't actually, like, fix the things and make this world a better place, make America at least. And it's because we're all just fucking saying, hey, like, this is all good enough for us. Let's just make our fucking money. Let's make our fucking bones and move on. Move it along. Move along the chains. So when I see a person of color make a switch, I feel like it's obviously one or two things. You're either disillusioned with this situation, you're done with the whole liberal path line, and you want to shake it up. Okay, all right. And then I also just see people who are like, oh, it's grift mode. It's grift mode. And I'm not, I tried coming in as a liberal, or maybe I made a name of myself as a liberal, but now it's time for my heel turn to conservatism, and I'm gonna make the real ducats. Because that's where the real fucking money is. I fucking hate. Obviously, I'm just going into tangent mode. I'm sorry. I'm in the weeds and I'm loving it now, Jerry. But it's crazy to me when people talk about the liberal elite and they talk about how like the liberal lamestream media, and it's like, what are you talking about? CNN is fighting for its fucking life. Because it's not interesting. It's just not interesting. Like when you actually try to stick to any kind of news beat, it just doesn't fucking work. So naturally, they do try to spice it up by literally talking about conservative things and just saying, hey, we're the liberal place fighting against these conservative things. Like, you know what I mean? Like at this point, the narrative is literally in the conservatives camp because they're pushing the shit. Like, I don't understand. And that's because literally the people with money have the control. Like, that's how it's always been. Like, when have liberals done anything? Even with Bill Clinton, even with Obama. Like, it's just weird. It's always weird to me when I hear people who are older than me or people my age or younger, and they just talk about this shit like they don't have the juice. Like, they don't have the power. Like, being conservative is literally the easy mode of the shit. I don't fucking know. It's weird. You get paid to go to events. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you think George Clooney like airdrops a fucking check to AOC for showing up anywhere? They don't, dude. They just fucking don't. And even then, I think AOC is a performative person. That's a whole other issue. But I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Joe Biden. I think it's gonna be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Who is it? Ron DeSantis. Wrong DeSantimonious. I guess we can close out. He went to Japan and just made a whole ass of himself. They asked him, like, you know, what does he think his chances are or whatever. And he's like, I'm not even running it. Like, he just made, like, the weirdest, like, startled, angry face about it. And, I don't know. I had a real laugh. It was weird. He's weird. And I think his chances just, like, diminished by the day. And even though I've said before, I think he's in now because he's got all this campaign money. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he just doesn't run. Maybe he does himself the smart favor and just go back to Florida where you're like the fucking king, mate. Like, I don't know. All right, so that's it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in. I said this was gonna be short, and I dragged and stretched it out, didn't I? I'm crazy for that one, huh? If you'd like to support my crazy antics and hijinks, oh gosh, I'm trying to burp and I can't. I have Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Let's see, you get bonus content. I do paywall the Monday episodes, or at least one episode a week. I usually just paywall. So, you know, get access to that. Also, you get a hot link to the Discord, a little quick link. I will give you that, though, if you just find me, and I can just send that to you, whatever, for the free. But I do a newsy shout-out once a month. Say your name on the podcast, and then also plug any kind of project you'd like to tell me to plug. Also, I prioritize any of the news you'd like in terms of just, I give you, a little bit of one thing. If you want me to cover it, hey, sweet. And I do that for the free too. I love when people give me news. Talk to me about news. I love it. It doesn't have to be whatever the fuck the big news is. You can just talk to me about anything. I just love it. I'm so news pilled. I love it. It's my thing now. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. No, free ways to hit me up. Gmail, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com, and then Facebook, Twitter. All right, that's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.